Good morning, everyone. I'm Rita Peters, Senior Vice President for Legislative Affairs with Convention of States Action. We had planned to be bringing you live coverage right about now of a hearing in the Texas Senate State Affairs Committee on the House version of our resolution in Texas, HJR 98. Now it appears that that hearing is not going to happen this morning. But it's not bad news. It's actually good news. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background to bring you up to speed on what's been happening in Texas. And then I'll introduce a guest who's going to let us know where we go from here and what the next steps are to passing our application in Texas for an Article 5 Convention of States with no expiration date. So, if you watch the program regularly, you might remember that we just recently broadcasted the same committee, Texas Senate State Affairs Committee, as they held a public hearing on the Senate version of our Article 5 application. That's SJR 54. They held a public hearing. So we got to see a lot of testimony. They did not vote on the resolution. Then, after that hearing, the House version of our Article 5 application, HJR 98, actually passed the entire House. It had already had its committee hearing and gone through committee. It passed the House and crossed over to the Senate. It was assigned to this same committee, the Senate State Affairs Committee, and it was scheduled for hearing this morning. However, there is a rule in Texas that the committee doesn't actually have to hold a new hearing on a bill or a resolution if it's identical to a bill or resolution that it has already held a public hearing on. So, of course, that applies here. They had already had the hearing on the Senate version of the application, which is identical to the House companion resolution. So, as of this morning, HJR 98 was removed from the agenda for the hearing in this Texas Senate State Affairs Committee today. And to bring you all up to speed and tell us what's next, we have Jonathan Viad. He is our regional director for the region of the country that includes Texas. Jonathan, welcome. Thanks for jumping on with me this morning.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Rita. Although I feel a little unprepared. I gave O'Malley the update and he just walked away. Not without showing off his tail first, but he had to walk away.
Well, maybe he will just be there helping from a distance, Jonathan. I hope you and I can figure it out. So just, I think I got the recap right, but just bring our viewers up to speed. What's the plan for moving forward with our sunset-free Article 5 application in Texas? What are the next steps?
Yeah, thank you so much, Rita. So again, just to kind of take a couple steps backwards to discuss exactly how we got here. So we were moving things along in the House with HJR 98. That was our intention. We thought that we would have a little bit more of a climb in the House than it would in the Senate. We have a lot more support just as a body as a whole in the Senate, and things move pretty quickly there. In the House, there's a couple committees more that it has to go through, getting on the calendar and what have you. So that's why we focused on trying to get our resolution through the House first and foremost. We started to slow down a little bit. If y'all remember, if you were paying attention and keeping score, we had our committee hearing at the end of March, and it was voted out of the State Affairs Committee in the House on April 2nd, I believe was the date. It was Wednesday, April 2nd. And then things started to slow down as we were trying to get it from State Affairs to the Calendars Committee, and then from the Calendars Committee onto the floor of the House. And so in an effort to try to move things along and try to get things across the finish line as early in session as possible, we decided to talk to our Senate sponsors and ask them, hey, would you mind moving SJR 54 along through the process as well? And then if the House were to get it done before you got it all the way through the Senate, we'd be able to do what's known as a substitute and substitute SJR 54 with HJR 98, or do it the opposite way. If the Senate got through things first, then substitute it on the floor of the House, substitute HJR 98 with SJR 54 either way, it would kind of help us pick up some of the lost time that we were losing over those couple of weeks. As it turned out, we had that committee hearing. I believe it was on Thursday, April 24th, if I'm remembering correctly. A vote was not taken by the Senate State Affairs Committee on SJR 54. The following Monday, they were planning to vote it out, but HJR 98 came up in the House, passed through the House, and it moved so quickly that the Senate said, you know what? We'll just take HJR 98. We'll have it reassigned to the Senate State Affairs Committee, and then we'll go ahead and vote it out and continue on, and we'll just leave SJR 54 in committee. And so, as of Friday, we were on the schedule expecting that committee hearing that you were referring to, Rita, but we were also became aware of Rule 11.14C in the Senate rules for this legislative session that says a committee is not required to hold a public hearing on a House bill which contains the same subject as a Senate bill that has previously been afforded a public hearing before the committee or a subcommittee. Well, HJR 98 and SJR 54 are the same, right? They are exactly the same. Some minor language that's a little different as to describing the Congress, but it is the Texas legislature, but they are the same bills. And so they do not have to have another hearing since we already had one. They're just going to take a vote on it. And it's our expectation that's going to happen this morning. They're going to pass it out of committee, and then we just have to get onto the Senate floor, and then through that process. And I believe there are 2 readings that go on in the Senate for our resolution. But it is likely, or it is even possible, maybe not likely, but definitely possible, that this could all be wrapped up by the end of the week, and we will have our expiration date completely removed in Texas by the end of this week. So really exciting development, but a little confusing.
Yeah, that was a really helpful explanation, Jonathan. Thank you. So, you do think that this Texas Senate State Affairs Committee is likely to vote today, but I assume you're not expecting debate or really discussion. I know we're pretty confident about how having all the votes we need and then some on this committee. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have, and it's funny when we were watching the feed there of them gathering, and I think they're just getting started with the committee right now. I saw John Van Compernol, who is our legislative liaison, on the floor. He has been there nonstop working with these legislators, and Senator Brian Birdwell I also saw there. Senator Birdwell is our sponsor there in the Senate. He's been our sponsor going all the way back to SJR2 when we passed in 2017. Not only is he on the committee, but Senator Brian Hughes, who is the chairman of this committee, is a strong supporter of ours, and he was at our simulated convention in Williamsburg, Virginia in 2023. So we've got a lot of big support on this committee, and so I don't expect there to be a lot of debate. I think they'll just move forward and vote it out. And like I said, hopefully we're then on the calendar, the intent calendar for the Senate floor later this week.
That sounds great to me. And Jonathan, it's my understanding that we have more than enough votes on the Senate floor as well for passage. And, it's interesting. I think this was sort of the situation the last time we tried to pass a expiration free resolution, in order to deal with the old sunset provision in Texas. But what happened last time was we ran into snags with the calendar. We were pressing right up until, the end of session, and then it just didn't get done because of, one of the few opponents there are pulled a, procedural parliamentary move to keep us from getting through. Are you worried about anything like that this time? It seems like we're pretty much on the home stretch at this point.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned. I won't say that there's no concern. You never know until we're across the finish line. But I would say I feel really good about that there won't be any issues. So last time, as what you're referencing in 2023, we went through the Senate first, and the Senate moved very quickly. We have a lot of support there amongst the Senate, all the way up to the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick there in Texas. Really big supporters, and so we were able to move quickly. And then in the House, things slowed down. And when we finally got to the floor right before session was concluding, it was the last week of session, we had that point of order that you're talking about that derailed us, and we weren't able to address the sunset clause 2 years ago. That's why, again, our team came up with the strategy. Let's go through the House first this time. We got through that relatively smoothly. I was stunned that there wasn't much debate at all last Monday, and we were able to get it over there. And so now we're in the more comfortable chamber to be in at the end, and I think we're going to see this move through without any major issues from here on out. So an incredible blessing, and just a tip of the cap to the Texas team, and just doing an excellent job, really almost flawless job of carrying out their strategy.
Absolutely. Kudos to you and the Texas team. And Jonathan, the vote, as you mentioned, in the House happened super quickly without any real, discussion. In fact, it happened so quickly that I missed it. So I hope that on the Senate side, I learned my lesson. This time I'm going to watch that entire floor session on the day that it's on the calendar. And I hope I don't miss it. I hope we're able to bring it on COS Live for our viewers. But yeah, great job, Jonathan. Thanks again for joining me. Any final words for our viewers today?
Well, I'll make you feel better, Rita. I was actually up on the ladder trying to fix something in my house, and I had the laptop going, and I heard them say that it was coming up. So I got off the ladder, put it away, sat down, and the vote was over.
Yeah.
That's how fast it moved. That's how fast it moved. So I do
Yeah.
hope that it moves just as quickly in the Senate. But
Yeah.
as far as any final words, I would just say again, thank you all for all of your support, particularly those of you in Texas. We made hundreds, if not thousands, of calls and emails that we sent to the legislators across this legislative session. And it's because of you that we were able to get this done. It's because of our supporters that respond to these calls to action. It's because of our grassroots activists on the ground, our Capitol Brigade, our legislative liaison, our state director. I know a whole bunch of them were sending messages last night. Hey, we're going to the Airbnb. We'll be there late Sunday night. We're going to be there Monday morning. They're going to be there today. They're going to be there later this week. They're constantly showing up, and that's how we get these things done. So just a tip of cap to them, and of course to our champions, Cody Vasut in the House and Brian Birdwell in the Senate. Couldn't get it done without them.
Absolutely. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rita.
And for those of you watching, another team that is tireless in its efforts and will not stop until they get the job done is our North Carolina team. And I'm just going to give you a little heads up that we are expecting a committee hearing in the North Carolina House tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern on our Convention of States resolution. That's sort of breaking news. So wanted to give you a heads up there. We haven't been told for sure whether that committee will actually hear testimony from the public on the resolution, but stay tuned and we will keep you posted on what's going to happen with that. This will be the first committee hearing or committee action in North Carolina so far this year. So definitely a momentous day there. And again, we will keep you posted on what we expect to happen. If there's anything to broadcast, we will bring it to you live tomorrow. So thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great day.